Adventurers, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to an episode of the Outliers show. My name is Muhia and I'm going to be your host for the evening. The Outliers show is about crazy people who go out in the wild or out there and they do things that me and you, who are the normal kind of guy, wouldn't be able to think about. So it's about adventures that go beyond. And so today I'm going to be hosting one of my very good friends. His name is James Muhia. He's going to be telling us more about how he got into the sport of ultra running. He's an ultra runner, he's a mountaineer, he's a trail runner, he's a marathoner, and all those things put together. And we're going to be discussing about his adventures. He's been to many places across the globe. He had a near-death experience recently on Ama Dablam, and that's a mountain called the Mother's Necklace in the Himalayas. And we're also going to be having him tell us about his future plans, what holds for the future, and most importantly, looking forward to his next adventure. Bwana Muhia, karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Welcome to the bench again.
Thank you. This is a bit cushy.
Cushy, yes? You're used to tough and hard things.
Rocks. Sitting on rocks and hard ground.
Oh, great.
I'm a Kenyan trail runner, mountaineer, and a recreational outdoor enthusiast. The key word is recreational. Because what I do it for fun. I'm also a husband. I'm a father to 2 kids, and I'm also a self-employed. I'm a businessman, basically, who handles some business here and there. Yeah.
That must explain why every time we are hiking, you're always on the phone. So tell me about now your mountain. I think you're part of a group of, let me say, the crazy people. You yourself, there's Victor Miringu, there's Cheriot, and a few other Kenyans who... Kinalimo, and that group of the ultra runners in Kenya, and you guys have been changing how people do mountains. I remember the first time I heard someone has done Mount Kenya in a day, I was like, that's reckless. So yeah, I've seen you guys have come and I've been with this journey with these gentlemen and ladies, and you've done some great records. Maybe you can tell us about the journey and what you can say about. I've seen you guys do some things in Wenzori, Kilimanjaro, and many other places. Yeah. So how has that been, and how did you guys do it?
Actually, I would say I came a bit late into trail running or mountain running. So the pioneers, the Victor and Cheriot and a few other people are the pioneers, I would say, of local trail runners. Same as you, I was put in a group of runners. Then there was a post of, a Strava post, a screenshot of Cheriot having ran Cinnamon route.
Old Moses.
Old Moses to Lenana and back. And I think in 6 or 7 hours. And I was like, no, it's not possible. That was my first reaction. And I actually thought probably Cheriot is an elite runner who is now using Mount Kenya to train for these competitive marathons and all. But with time, now I joined them for one of their runs, and I got hooked to it. I mean, before then I was just doing mountains. Like before I started trail running or ultra running, I had done a few mountains like Kilimanjaro, Kenya, Canterbury, and Lenin Peak. I had done these mountains. So for me, I was like more of a mountaineer. And then when I started joining these runs, then it became more intense, more challenging. And then I found it easier for me to do my normal mountaineering. So it became part of a training, but now it has become an activity on its own. You know, I don't necessarily run to prepare for a mountain. I run for the fun of it.
What's the summit you guys have been doing now to tie up with the whole sky running? We call it sky running, and sky running is the art of running, going up a mountain, fast and down.
Sure.
It's so like trail running but on mountains. You guys have established some sort of records within yourselves. So what time have you guys done, or have you personally done on Mount Kenya, Kilimanjaro and Rwenzori, if you remember?
Okay.
On a speed ascent?
For me, the fastest I've done Mount Kenya is Old Moses to Lenana in 3 hours 24 minutes.
Wow. The normal person 2 days.
Yeah, but Chariot has the record of that route of 2 hours, I think 56 minutes.
Wow,
yeah.
That's crazy.
That was crazy. The trick is consistency in your walk, and also so you learn how to rest when you are still on the move.
So you rest on the flats on the downhill.
Yeah.
Kilimanjaro, what's the record?
For me, it's not a record. It's the fastest I've done.
Fastest, I mean, sorry, yeah.
Up and down, it's 16 hours.
16 hours.
Yeah, gate
and
to gate.
The record for Kili is what? Is it 7 hours?
No. The record up and down for Kili, I think up I know is actually it's 6 hours and 53 or 56 minutes. I'm not sure. 6 hours up and down.
Up and down.
Yeah, up is 4 hours and some 50 odd minutes.
Crazy, eh?
Yeah, by some Ecuadorian guy.
Oh, nice. And you guys did you go on the Rwenzori expedition, right? The first ascent for Rwenzori?
Yeah. We have that record. now we can say. Now you can say we have.
Uganda brothers are not very happy with that. I think they're going to be launching an assault soon. So you did Rwenzori in how many days? I mean, in what time? And
that was
before we moved to Ama Dablam.
Yeah, for Rwenzori we did. We were with Freeman and Limo.
They're also great, very strong runners.
Yeah, get to summit. We did 11 hours 51 minutes.
Wow.
We didn't have a lot of speed going down. We had done whatever we wanted to do. So up and down we took a total of 22 hours and 50 something minutes, 52 or something.
Did you guys use gear on the ice, on the glacier still?
Yeah, we did.
Wow.
We did, but we put the crampons on our running shoes. We didn't change to boots or anything. We simply just, because it was a small section.
Oh, a small section.
Yeah, but we had to use gear. We had to have these guides. Yeah. And we had to be tied by rope. So a lot of time we covered a lot of distance. In a short time before we got to the glacier, because you see you can't run on the glacier and all, and then you have these technical guides with you, so you cannot rush them. But yes, we managed 11 hours 51 minutes.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So I started mountaineering like about 5 years ago. My first Mount Kenya climb was in August 2017. That time I joined a group that was doing the normal climb on Mount Kenya. And at Lenana I was I was elated, like I felt this is something I would want to do over and over again. And immediately after that, I started joining other hikes and all. Later, I went to Rwenzori, and that was June of 2018. And by the time we were coming back to Nairobi from Rwenzori, I had made up my mind that I'm going to pursue this as a hobby. And I think 3 weeks later, I found myself in Kyrgyzstan.
Oh, Kyrgyzstan.
Climbing Lenin Peak. It was the most, up to now, I think that was the most impromptu mountaineering expedition I've ever done, because I had never even heard of it 3 weeks prior to me arriving there.
Wow.
I just went online.
You just went online and looked for a peak?
I went online. I wanted a high peak. Because I had fallen in love with the glacier on Rwenzori. So, and I felt like I think I can go higher. I went online, started checking a few things about mountaineering and all, and I saw a group going to Lenin Peak. I emailed. Then they said I could join the group. There were some 2 guys from France, some 2 guys from Russia. All these were strangers, by the way. I met them on the mountain at the base camp, and we had a wonderful 18 days climbing.
Wow, 18 days.
Yeah.
Lenin Peak is above 7,000 meters, right?
Yeah, it's 7,134 meters.
Oh, I'm curious about. So at the point you did Lenin Peak, have you done Kilimanjaro?
No. I actually did Lenin Peak before I did Kilimanjaro. And the funny thing is that when we were climbing, climbing in Kyrgyzstan as the only Kenyan then, people were very curious. So I had a lot of, I would say, attention. And the good thing is that I carried the Kenyan flag. And for the entire period that I was on the mountain, they were gracious enough to fly the Kenyan flag at the base camp. So people are like asking, which flag is this? Which country is this? So every time I was like meeting with climbers up and down, because we spent 18 days going up and down the mountain and eventually summiting. Even strangers, you are the Kenyan. So it became like the flag became a point of reference. And then they were saying, I was climbing with 2 Russians, and they were like, they gave me a nickname like the Lion of Kilimanjaro, because of course they assumed that I had climbed Kilimanjaro. I had not climbed Kilimanjaro, but since I was from Africa, then they assumed I must have done it.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So these 18 days, what happens when I see a lot of these 17, the peaks that people do in Pakistan, Nepal, and it's 18 days. Why do people take 18 days? Just
acclimatization. Yeah. So when you're going to those high altitudes, you need your body to acclimatize well. Now, our program was we spend a day or 2 just walking around the base camp. And then going to a higher elevation and back to base camp, and then we went to the advanced base camp. Now from this point, The clouds are coming. You can see all the camps. Hopefully tomorrow you'll be able to see the base camp. It's now dull, it's covered by clouds. And there's, I think, camp 1, camp 2, somewhere there. And if I can turn, camp, there's some camp there, camp 3. And the peak is covered by clouds. There was a storm in the morning, and the weather forecast for the next 2 days is not promising. The next 2 or 3 days there might not be a summit. The weather forecast is quite bad. Then climbed all the way to, all the way to camp 3, but you sleep in different camps. Like you climb from advanced base camp to camp 2, you sleep, then camp 3, sleep, which is about 6,000 meters, and then you go back down. This is camp 1 after the snow. We've just arrived at camp 1 from camp 2, going down to the base camp. There's a heavy snowfall that is making everything difficult. It's a nightmare. That going up and down helps your body acclimatize, and also most of these high mountains you cannot just climb without some good weather.
Yes. So you're looking for a window or opportunity for...
Yes, so you might actually acclimatize and have to stay for like 2-3 days before a good weather window is available for you to make a summit push. Now, I'm told camp 2 is just beyond that rock there. So, just beyond that rock. When it being camp 2, I don't even want to think about camp 3. I'll just be happy to get to camp 2. God, what did I get myself into? This is madness.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Interesting. I've been postponing my climb personally to go to the peaks of the Himalayas, and I'm hoping that soon I'll be able to do it, maybe next year.
It's an amazing experience.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's sometimes you watch documentaries, you watch movies, and you read online, and you are like fixated on some of these mountains. But being there, exactly, being there is a totally different experience. You go to the Everest region.
Yes.
You see all these peaks: Everest, Lhotse, Makalu, Ama Dablam, and it becomes, you are lost in that world. At least for the moment you are there, you are living the dream.
Tell us now about the main juice of today, and this is the Ama Dablam story. And So where is this mountain? What is it? Why is it called? I've heard of Mother's Necklace.
Yeah.
If you can tell us a little bit about it, and maybe take it on how the trip was before the incident.
Yeah.
Tell us about the incident that happened there.
All right. So Ama Dablam, it's a 6,812 meter peak in the Himalayas in Nepal. It's 12 kilometers from Everest. So when you are going to Ama Dablam base camp, you basically use the same route that is used to access the Everest base camp until the last station or tea houses where now you branch the last day. So I decided to do Ama Dablam because I was looking at a more technical peak with altitude. I had done Batian in a regular rock climbing, so I was looking for a peak that is more technical, but also I wanted to consider altitude because I have a plan of climbing an extremely high peak which is also very technical. So it was part of training, but also it was like a bucket list item for me because Ama Dablam is a beautiful mountain. When I was researching for this technical peak, when I saw that mountain, it's extremely beautiful.
Yeah.
It's called Mother's Necklace. In Ama Dablam actually means Mother's Necklace because when you look at it, it's like a mother holding a baby, and when you see that photo, it's appealing. You just want to gaze. I remember getting to the base camp and just wondering, where do people climb from? Like, when I look at the mountain, there's no way there's a route to the top.
Like it looks
like a very sharp pyramid. Yeah, with all these eyes falling down.
Yeah.
So what happened is that I decided we met. There's a Nepali guide I had met in Kyrgyzstan when climbing Kantegri, and we started talking and we settled on Ama Dablam. I joined him. That time it was during COVID, and travel had just opened. So I was actually debating whether I should go or not, because traveling during COVID proved to be extremely expensive and uncertain. But I was at a point whereby I needed such an experience, I just needed to get out of sea level and get to high altitude, So luckily, the Nepali government at that point, they were making exemptions for mountaineers.
Yes.
So you had to have the tour company had to get a permit from the Ministry of Culture and Tourism.
Yes.
And that will allow you to get a visa on arrival. So long as you show that there was a letter that was issued now for myself, and now and everybody was climbing at that period. So arrived in Nepal. It was an exciting time. Because it was something that I was looking forward to do, and got to the Everest region. I was in good shape. Because I had prepared for it. So when we arrived, it took like 6 days to get to base camp, just trekking the normal Everest route. So when we got to base camp, the plan was just do the normal climb. The plan was the following day get to camp 1, sleep there, go to camp 2, sleep there, then get back down to base camp, rest for 2 days, and then now start the summit push.
So we start.
Let's start. What? Well, this come Camp 1. Then tomorrow, inshallah, Camp 1 summit, Camp 1.
Inshallah. Okay, we go.
But then when I got there, now of course, all these plans are subject to the weather.
Yes.
And
Weather changes every other time.
it's the mountain. The mountain makes its own weather. So when we got to base camp, when we got the weather forecast, and basically the mountain was closing for like 7 days. Like you can climb probably up to Camp 2, but after that then you have to wait for like 7 days for the weather to open. And then I met a guy, an Italian guy, who wanted to make a direct push from Camp 1. So after talking, but in my craziness, I just decided to join him. I decided to join him and climb with him. So the following day,
Yes.
we climbed up to Camp 1, and then that night we at 2 a.m. we started the push to the summit. Now there are some guys who had started their push from Camp 2.
Yes.
So at around 11 we started meeting with them coming down. They had not summited, but the weather at that point had changed. There was a lot of snow, so they aborted the summit push. But we continued climbing.
You and the Italian.
The Italian was actually way ahead of me, but I said so long as I'm feeling okay and everything, I'll continue climbing. This climb is actually extremely exhausting, because you get to a point whereby it's like 100 meters of vertical ice wall.
Like proper ice wall.
Proper ice wall, like you have to use your ice axe, you have to use your crampons to scale the wall.
Yeah. And are you with rope?
Yeah, there are sections with a lot of sections have the fixed ropes. Yeah, so for safety. At some point, I dropped my ice axe in the fight with the ropes and the rocks. I dropped my ice. So even climbing some of those sections it became even harder, because now I don't have an ice axe. I lost my GoPro. There was a rock fall.
So we may not have a lot of footage for this.
Yeah, but there is still some footage. But there was some rock falls at some point, and it hit my helmet and dislodged the GoPro.
And you still continue. Come on, man.
Yeah.
That was the sign to come down.
But I'll be honest, at around 6,000 meters,
yeah,
I was done with that mountain. I had said it's not that serious. I actually started after a rest of like 5 minutes. I just decided I'm done. I'm going back down, and I started fixing my abseiling device. And then I remembered there's an Italian up there. So why should I turn back? And there's still someone up there who is ahead of me, and he will still come down. So I decided, this is what I'll continue climbing until when we meet, then we come back down together.
yes.
So at that point, at around 6,000 meters, I decided I'm not. It's about I think it's 6,500 or 6,000, just around there. I had decided I'm not summiting.
Yes.
But
peak is what? How many meters?
6,812. So I had decided I'm not summiting, but then I thought, since that guy is still up there, I'll just continue going up until the point we meet. Then we come. Yes. I think I climbed for another 2 hours. Then I met him, and I told him, "Yeah, I'm done. I'm not summiting." Then he told me, "No. You are only like an hour to the summit. So why you have worked hard from Camp 1?"
Yeah.
And that time it was around 2:33 towards 3. Yeah. So it was like you've been climbing for like 12 hours.
Yes.
What is another 1 hour to summit? And with that, I said, "Fine, I'll meet you at Camp 1." I continued climbing, and I summited at around 4:15 in the afternoon. Now, that is quite late for that mountain to summit, but well, I didn't. Actually, when I did summit and I looked at the watch, I was a bit worried because I'm alone on that summit. Now the biggest task is to get down. So took a few photos with my phone and started coming down. Now, what I didn't know is that when I was at the summit, when I was at the summit, there was a bit of sun.
Yeah.
But a few meters down, it was gray. It was just foggy and I couldn't see anything.
Yeah.
What I didn't know that below me on the route, there was an avalanche on the route. And on a few sections, ropes were buried.
Oh, they buried the fixed ropes.
Yeah. So I remember there was a point I came down, I was abseiling. You know, you abseil, you get to the end of this rope, you join, you move to the next rope. And then I couldn't find the rope. So at some point, I spent almost 30 minutes looking for ropes. Digging with my hands, I dug almost 1 meter down to get some of those anchors and ropes on some sections.
That's on ice, eh?
Yes. So then at some point, when changing ropes from one rope to the next, I dropped the abseiling device, the ATC, and that was the beginning of my problems. Because I had dropped it twice, and then I recovered it, and then because it was now getting numb, it was getting really cold now. It was getting numb and everything. And at some point, I even had to remove some warmer gloves that I had, you know, to more, for speed, to get down. But then at some point, I lost it, like completely. I looked for it, I couldn't find it. Luckily, I had a backup device, a figure 8, which I used for some time. The problem with figure 8 on ice rope, on ropes that are frozen, is that it heavily relies on less friction to get you down. So there was this section I reached and I couldn't, I got stuck on the rope. Kumbe, it was like an overhang that runs like a traverse. You jump over a rock going down, and then you go to your left. To your left now to catch the other ropes. I got stuck there, like literally stuck. I couldn't go down. You know, when you are sailing, you use your weight to go down. I tried to give weight to the rope. Nothing, no movement. I tried to swim. Nothing. I actually struggled for like 5-10 minutes and I couldn't move. Honestly, at this point, I started to panic because it is dark now. It was around 9 p.m.
9 p.m.
Yeah, it is dark. It's still snowing, and then there was this. Every now and then there was a gust of wind. Yeah, that was coming with a lot of cold. So when there is no wind, you feel warm, but when that wind comes, it chills your bones. So, well, I tried everything I couldn't move. Then, actually, at some point, I gave up. Like, I let go of the rope and everything. You're just hanging. A good place. There's nowhere you can go. You were just hanging. You let go. You're just dangling in the air. I don't know what was going through my mind at that, but I said, let me just record a message just in case. Just in case of anything. At least if anybody finds me, they will find a message on the phone.
Yeah.
When I was getting my phone from the jacket, I always carry photos of my family, my wife, my kids, some passport photos. So when the phone was coming out, it came out with my daughter's photo. And for some, me seeing her photo like jolted my mind. Like, what are you doing? You need to get down this mountain. I looked at her photo and I didn't even record the message that I wanted to record. I think at that point I just wanted to say, oh, I'm here at this height, I'm stuck, whatever. I think that is what, in retrospect, probably that's what, I don't know what I would have said, but probably that's what I would have said. But then me seeing her photo really messed up my mind,
In a good way.
Well, in a good way. And it was like, no, I have to get down. Put back my phone in the pocket, and now started really thinking what needs to be done, because I can't sleep here. There has to be a way. When you are climbing these mountains with fixed ropes, there is that ascender. It's Jumar that you use to climb up. So I thought, what if I use that ascender to protect myself going down? Because you see, this abseiling device it helps you descend safely.
Yeah.
What if I use this ascender as a descender in a way? Like, I don't know. So what I did, I decided I'm going to look for another rope, because there are some ropes that every season these guys put fresh ropes, but they leave old ropes there. So I decided to look for an alternative rope and clip the Jumar on that rope, and now try to descend without falling. So use the Jumar as a safety device. And that's what I did. I did that for the next probably 2 or 3 hours, and finally got to camp 2. So my tent and everything was in camp 1, but I couldn't go beyond camp 2. It was too dangerous. It was now, I think, midnight. I was cold and my hands were just numb. When I got to the tent, I was just looking for anything. I was hungry, I was just tired and cold. So I didn't know whose tent this was, so I just got in, and luckily there was a stove. This is the high altitude stove and gas. There was just a small package with some hot chocolate I just got out briefly, took some ice, melted, and made some hot chocolate. And then on one corner there was a jacket, a down jacket. I just removed the jacket that I had because it was full of ice and it was wet. And I wore this jacket that I got to the tent.
Wow.
There was no sleeping bag, so yeah, there was no sleeping bag, so I just lay on the floor, and I think I blacked out or something. I just slept. So when I woke up, one of the shepherds came now to check on me. That night when I arrived, he just called and asked, because I think my guide who I had left at Camp 1 had radioed to ask whether they have seen me, because there was an avalanche, so they were holding their breath. I remember later them telling me when it was around 7 p.m. near 8 p.m. and they had not seen my torch, they concluded probably I had gone with the avalanche. So at 8 is when they saw my head torch.
Oh, coming down.
Yeah, coming down at around 8. That is when they saw the head torch, and at least now they relaxed because they saw some light. Then so when I got there, so this shepherd radioed my shepherd.
Yes.
And because he saw my fingers and said, "You have a big problem." Anyway, I couldn't even the full realization of what was happening. Yeah. So at this point, I realized even holding a cup was a big task. So there was no way I'm going to have sailed down to Camp 1. At least from Camp 1, it's a more or less of a scramble and a trek to base camp. So luckily then, my guide was not far. Unknown to me, he had slept like 100 meters from Camp 2 out in the open under a rock.
What?
Because yeah, because when I started climbing later on, he decided to meet me at Camp 2.
Oh.
But then there was another guy who was climbing with his shepherd, and then just before Camp 2, there's a tower, a rock. It's called the Yellow Tower. It's a very steep. It's a proper rock climb. It's like Batian sort of vibe, yeah.
Yes.
So that you can now get to Camp 2. So this guy, for some reason, he was unable to climb.
Yes.
And then, so they decided to turn back. But then when they were turning back, he started developing this altitude sickness symptoms, and he could fall and all. And so they decided it was because now it was dark, because they started climbing late, I think probably at 2 p.m.
Yes.
Because their target was just to get to Camp 2. So they decided it is too dangerous to go down at night to Camp 1. So they decided to bivouac just under a rock. So when he was radioed, then within a short time he climbed the Yellow Tower and came up. And I could see the shock on his face when he saw my fingers. And that is the point now where we decided I cannot go down.
Yes.
We had to ask for helicopter rescue. So we radioed in for a helicopter. The helicopter came. It's the same helicopter that was serving base camp, Everest base camp, and so came to the base camp. They tried to come up to Camp 2, but it was just foggy. They tried twice, and then at 2 p.m. they called off the rescue because it was too dangerous for the helicopter to come up. And I had to spend another night
Oh no.
there. If I knew that I was spending another night there, I wouldn't have warmed my hand then, because warming the hands and then freezing again made it worse.
Oh.
Yeah. So I would have left it in that state until the point that I know that it's going to be warm for a long time. Because now I was told later that warming the hands in warm water and then freezing again at night made it a bit worse. It killed more tissue than it would have. This camp 2, is like on a cliff. The heli cannot land. In fact, that camp can accommodate probably a maximum of 5 or 6 tents, because it's on a cliff, and even those tents that are pitched, they are slanting. You really have to find a balance to sleep there. So since the heli couldn't land, they had to do what we call the long line rescue. They drop a rope, you clip yourself, and then you basically are taken to the base camp, hanging below a helicopter. And that's what happened.
What?
From the base camp, they put me now inside the heli, and we went to Kathmandu directly to hospital. I spent 4 days in the hospital. You know, when I was in the hospital, the Nepali government announced that they are banning international flights in 2 days' time. That was the second day I was in hospital, because the COVID situation had worsened. I think there was an outbreak in India. So they were closing boundaries again.
It was the start of the Indian.
Yes, exactly. So I consulted with the doctor. There was nothing much they could have done at that point. Just warming, making sure there is no infection. They couldn't do an operation then because they needed time to see how bad the thing is. So I checked out of hospital, had to book another flight. I even had to use another airline, because when I went to change my flight, it was full.
Oh, no.
Because you see, now I had an extra two weeks in Nepal.
Oh.
But then because of this sudden change in COVID situation,
You have to go back.
I had to go back. So I had even to book another flight to at least to Dubai,
Yeah.
for me to be able to connect here. So that's what I did. It took 2 months before finally I had an operation of my fingers.
Oh.
But I must say that the outcome after the surgery was much better than what was anticipated or expected.
Yeah.
So
You can still use your fingers.
So I'm back to the mountains. I'm back to rock climbing.
And you did that 5 weeks challenge after this, right?
After this, yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
This happened in May, end of April 2021.
Oh,
Yeah, so
clearly you're back. Welcome back.
yeah, so
And I think it takes. Would you do it again, Ama Dablam?
I will do it
Oh,
again.
you will.
Yeah, there is.
I know you.
I will do it again, but
Yes.
this time probably because I want to go back to Ama Dablam,
Yes.
summit it, but in a more relaxed, not pushing from Camp 1, just do an easy climb to enjoy the mountain.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Great.
take as much time as possible.
What is the next plan? What's the next plan that you have? I thought you had mentioned a monthly trip to me. And
Yeah. So my next milestone I want to hit is an 8,000 meter peak, and this time I'm planning on going to Manaslu later this year. There are still a few things that are to fall in place, primarily finances, because an 8,000 meter peak is quite an expense.
How much does it cost?
This one, the budget is $20,000, which is slightly
Above 2 months.
2 million. But so I'm hoping a few things or a few sponsors come into the way. But the idea is for me to climb Manaslu without using supplemental oxygen.
Oh.
Now I can say that.
Wow.
Now I can say that.
Oxygen again.
Yeah, that is the idea.
Yeah.
Because I know, honestly, I can do Manaslu with supplemental oxygen.
Yeah.
I know I can do it.
So there's no challenge.
So there will not be a challenge. So I just want to see how far I can push above 8,000 without supplemental oxygen. And it will be a bonus to have a first African do it without supplemental oxygen. There are so many who have done 8,000 peaks, including Everest, with supplemental oxygen, but there is no black person I know or in the records that have done it without supplemental oxygen. So that is my next challenge. So for me, I have 3 mountains above 8,000 meters that I want to climb. Those are my bucket, everything that I'll do between now and when I eventually climb them is geared to them. Manaslu without supplemental oxygen. Next year, Broad Peak in Pakistan.
Wow.
This primarily because there are Kenyans who are planning to do it.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. So I would want to be part of that. And then I am ambitious enough to want to combine that with K2.
Oh, finally.
So the idea is push my limits on 8,000 meters without supplemental oxygen on Manaslu this year. Acclimatize on Broad Peak and do K2 like same season, like back to back, because you'll have acclimatized on Broad Peak, so you don't need to expose yourself to the hazards of K2 for so long. So you can just go to K2 just to try for the summit.
Wow.
But those are details that will be refined later, but that is there. So those are my 3 8,000 meter peak bucket list items.
Wow.
That I hope by the end of next year to be realized.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I wish you well. I wish you well, my man.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna be staying very well. And thank you for coming on the show.
Santi, thank you for inviting and to share these stories with people.
Yes.
It's good to share some of these stories because we read a lot about Westerners and these European people doing this crazy stuff. They inspire us.
Yes.
But I think seeing some people you can relate with doing some of these things, then you become more aware that these things are actually within reach. Like when I knew Cheriot is running Mount Kenya.
Yes.
That time I was a fan of Killian. You were just the ultra runner. You were like, this guy is doing crazy stuff. Yeah. But then when you actually learn that there's a Victor Merino, there's a Cheriot running Mount Kenya, then you realize that these things are also within reach for you as well. And with that, I'm now running these mountains, Yeah. So it's good to share these stories, and I encourage more people to share their stories so that we can have a wider pool of of these adventurers. Yeah.
If you listen to today's show of Outliers and just thought how crazy that was, you are not alone. Actually, think this is a pack of mad people trying to do things out there. But it's a challenge for you also to go out and push your limits. Think of something that you ever wanted to do and you've never done it for one reason or the other, and go for it. If it's going to Everest, if it's going to Kilimanjaro, if it's cycling from Nairobi to South Africa,
Yeah.
if it's jumping off a plane, if it's skydiving, if it's deep sea diving, if it's anything you ever wanted to do, just go for it, because it just might be the next guests on the Outliers show. Until the next show,